Hey, this is Sebastian from the Metal Gods Meltdown, and today I'm joined by
Carl Canedy from the Rods in Canedy.
It's awesome to be chatting to such a drumming legend tonight. Warrior is the perfect remedy in these dark days of lockdowns and total uncertainty. Are you going to be doing a live stream, as you obviously won't be able to do a show or anything?
We absolutely are. We recorded a 30-minute virtual concert, and hopefully that'll be announced soon. It's coming out very soon. So I'm excited. It was a weird thing to do, I have to say. It was fun to get back together and play, but it was also kind of weird to be playing to just a few people with cameras.
So can you tell me which is your favourite track on Warrior today and why?
You know, that's one of those questions musicians and songwriters always go, well, they're all like my children and I love all of them. But I'll tell you that Atia was a song that was written by Charlie and Tony. And Tony had played it for me. I play in a band with Tony for the last 6 or 7 years now called the Jeffrey James Band, an 8-piece horn band. And so Tony and Charlie were working on some material. He played it for me, and I loved the song. So when it came time to do Canedy, halfway through the writing process, I suggested we pull that song out. So that's one of my favorite songs, but Warrior is also one of my favorite tracks because that was one of the first songs that we put together, and I thought that kind of gelled the band's sound. Like we started writing songs because their drummer wasn't available, and they brought me in to do a TV show. So that's how we started writing. So halfway through the process, it was clear that we were becoming a band. And so, you know, Warrior kind of brought that Canedy sound, if you will, whatever the band sound is, together. And so I love it for that.
I was a warrior, I fought the heavy metal wars, until the grunge king came and shut my heavy metal doors. I made my sacrifice to Chrysalis and Mercury, but all the gods and muses turned their backs on me. Dedicated warriors, we fought the valiant fight against
It is a proper old school metal album. How do you feel the metal genre is in today's climate pre-COVID-19?
I mean, I love a lot of the stuff that's out. I don't know the names of half of it because, listening to liquid metal and whatever Sirius radio, you don't always get what the songs are when you're driving. But, I even love, people have compared us to Sabaton, which I didn't know about Sabaton. But then I started listening to this stuff, and I thought they were great. So, I don't know. I don't think that, I think there's so many great bands out there, and and there's also, I hear people bash certain times, periods of time, and there's no good music. And my older friends always go, there's no good music since the 80s, and my other friends who are a little bit younger, no good music since the 90s. It's just every genre, every group seems to have their no good music since whatever. But I always find great music, every decade. But I've been around enough decades to actually judge things by the decade.
There is some fantastic bands coming out all the time, and it is hard to keep up with what's out there. It really is. So obviously you started out back in the 80s. Are you glad that you started back then rather than now?
Yeah, I think I am glad we started back then, mainly because we played so many gigs when we started. When the Rods first started, we played any place that would have us. We had no money. We were dirt poor. We lived on $5 a day. And our bass player, we still laugh about this to this day, our bass player smoked. So he bought cigarettes out of his $5 a day per diem. So, $5 per diem didn't go it went further, of course, 40 years later. But it was still tough. You were eating oatmeal for breakfast, and you were getting like a little sandwich and God knows what for dinner. It was very tight. And but we played tons of gigs. And nowadays, that's harder to play. And as we built a following, we started getting money. Like when we initially started, we were clearing rooms out. People hated us. They run for the exits. We'd be left with just a road crew and maybe a girlfriend or two. But we would empty clubs. But as we got further along, we started developing a following, and then we started making money. Today, bands have to host each other. Bands have to buy tickets, sell tickets for the show, which is essentially buying on. So it's very difficult for bands to make money. It's very difficult for bands to play. So in that sense, I think starting when we did was great because we had that period of time when we were on the road and we've known each other. We got to know each other so well from being in a pressure cooker, no money, playing as many gigs as we could, recording in between for nothing, and borrowing money from everybody. It gave us a sense of unity, and it carried us through. So during periods of time when we were off, when we reunited, it all came back immediately because we knew each other well. And I don't know that you have that today. But I was saying about the Canedy thing, us starting writing material and doing it every week, after a year and a half or so, we started realizing we had an album of material we were very proud of, but we were also had become a band. And it gave us that time to just be working in a studio where you hear everything well and you write songs together and you get to know each other. So in one sense, Canedy not being on the road still benefited from that little bit of a pressure cooker environment where we got to know each other, learn how each other plays while you're writing material.
I mean, I have seen there has been some small gigs in the USA, hasn't there? Was there a plan to get Canedy out on the road at some stage?
Well, we've only played one gig and everything else shut down. Along with the Rods, we had gigs booked and Legions of Metal, for example, and some other outdoor shows of our own. Right now, Canedy is booked in a couple of hours from here, where we live, for a show that's will be a TV broadcast as well. And that's the only thing we have on the books right now. And the way things are going here in America, I really don't know. I think it's all up in the air because people were trying to open and people aren't being safe. And so we're winding up in a bad position. So if they're going to shut things down again, who knows when we're going to play.
It's like you're going to wake up tomorrow and this has been that awful dream. I just sort of like equate it to being either a James Herbert or Stephen King horror movie but we just don't know which one we're going to come from or emerge from at the moment. It's horrendous.
It's funny you say that because I was out and I'm looking at people, and we all have our masks on, and we're all doing normal things. But I'm thinking we're surrounded by the invisible monster everywhere we go. And it was the Twilight Zone. We all act like wearing masks is normal to protect ourselves from the invisible invader. But it's really crazy, strange time.
Could you give us some news then on the Rods, and when can we expect a new album? And also, can you tell me what is it that's kept you going strong for so long?
The news on the Rods is David and I were together last week, and we're putting together material, and we have 3 songs for the new album Shockwave, and we have other ideas and things we're putting together. So we'll be getting together soon, and the band will be getting together. We have a new singer, Mike Santorciero, who is actually the singer of Canedy, and Freddie Villano from Quiet Riot, and Dee Snider playing bass. So the lineup, we sound really good. I'm very happy. We all fit together, personalities, musically. So the big goal right now is to work on Shockwave to have that album done for early 2021. And so we're on track for that. As far as what keeps me going all these years, you know, when I was 4.5, my mother took me to a wedding reception, and I remember it was an American Legion, and it had a tank out front. Of course, I'm 4.5, so the tank is freaking awesome, right? You're 4.5 in this huge tank. But then we go inside, and the first thing I saw, and I remember it, a little railing with an opening in the middle, little tiny bandstand, maybe 6 or 8 inches off the floor. And maybe a foot, who knows? I was 4.5. But my memory is that the drum set was in the middle. I believe it was red. And it was like the Alleluia singers singing and the white light shining down on the drum set. From that moment on, all I wanted to do was play drums. And I didn't get to play drums because we were poor and just couldn't afford it until I was 13 when I conned my mother into signing a horrible contract for a horrible set of drums. But once I got that, I never looked back. I practiced 5 or 6 hours a day. And I don't know, I just have always had that passion. And I still have that passion to this day. So for me, every day I can make music or play my drums, it's like, thank you, God, because that's what I love the most. That's my passion.
Of course, you've had an amazing career. But what would you say is your biggest highlight?
I've had so many wonderful highlights in my career that I'm grateful for, but probably the best was Ronnie Dio singing a song that I had written called The Code. And Ronnie was coming in, you know, of course, David and Ronnie being related and cousins, and also playing in the band Elf together. And Ronnie and David were tight. So Ronnie was going to sing 2 songs for David's solo album or for the Rods, or split it, one way or the other. But we had worked on Metal Will Never Die, and that was going to go on David's album. But then The Code was a song that I had written, and David thought that would be a perfect song for Ronnie to sing. So graciously offered that song up as opposed to one of his own. So I'm always, grateful to him for that. But it was really a career highlight watching Ronnie sing my song, seeing what he did. I mean, he was such a master. He was so unbelievable. And David, I've worked with, produced over 40 albums. I've worked with singers, and I work closely with them, and I love singers. So I love working on vocal tracks. But I'd never worked with someone who could just ace it in one take. It just never happens. It's a rare breed. And I didn't actually think, David telling me this over the years, I thought, his memory is kind of, we'll see. So then Ronnie comes in and he knocks it out in one take. I think he redid 2 lines because he wanted to try something different. And I was blown away. And he was so kind. He was so concerned about not affecting my vocal or my melody. And he had carte blanche from me going in, but he would still ask, Carl, is it okay if I change this a little bit? And, of course it was absolutely okay, but he was just such a great guy. So it was a great experience. and it was an honor to have Ronnie James Dio sing a song that I had written. So probably cite that as my biggest career highlight.
Never sent from above. Did the truth become a lie, or did the lie become the truth? Was it created to control? Does something sacred lie hidden from our view? Parchment's treasure and the code. Are they fools to search for the answer? Came to rule, hailed from the south of France, a bloodline of cult of personality, conspiracy in its grasp. Da Vinci, Hugo, Nostradamus, guardians of the Grail. Guardians of the Grail. Guardians of the Grail. Are they fools to search for the answer?
If you were stuck in quarantine for a year, which 4 famous musicians would you have with you and why?
Well, one would be probably Jimmy Page, because I love his songwriting. I love his playing, but I love his songwriting. Jimmy Page epitomizes a lot of what I love about metal or hard rock or whatever you'd want to call it, in that he's very rhythmic. He's very almost funky the way he plays. Plus, he has an acoustic side as well, but he's also just a raw riff master. So I would want him. I would want Paul McCartney. I've always been a huge fan of Paul McCartney because he's just a brilliant musician all around and a great songwriter, but he also experiments. He's always trying new sounds, and not that we all get to hear them because they're not all released as mainstream, but he's always writing and experimenting. So he would be one. And then 4 musicians. There's so many great vocalists that I'd have to say probably if Ronnie would be my first choice, but if you're talking only living, then I would have to choose someone else. But Ronnie would be the other one. And then for bass player, I always loved. Well, there's so many. I love Billy Sheehan. I love Billy's approach. I would probably say Billy Sheehan.
Again, I want to congratulate you on Warrior. Can you tell us why we should check it out?
Well, I think Warrior is a really good representation, of some of my best drumming, which I'm very proud of. And I think that it's an album that was written by 4 guys who wrote for the song. Nobody wrote for themselves. Nobody wrote a part that, I just want this to be a cool drum groove, so we'll write a song around it, and I don't really give a damn if the song is good. The drum groove is cool, and it shows I get to show off. It was not like that. Everybody focused on the song, and we wanted them to be songs that would stand the test of time and that we were proud of and weren't going to be embarrassed about them 5 years from now. So I'm really proud of that album for that reason. And I think that it's also an album that we made that I think all of us remember, because we all listen to modern music, but the thing we all talk about is when we were young and first started, we would pick up an album. And in doing so, the album, you'd look at the cover, read anything on the cover. I was always into who produced it, who published it. But you would have an album that when you put the needle on the record, you would hear the first song. The last song would be very similar, and if you liked the first song, most likely you would like the last song and all the songs in between. And that's the kind of record that we wanted to make. An album that wasn't jumping around in crazy different directions, but this is what the band's about, and we're going to give you samplings of different versions of the songs we write, all within the style of the band. So I felt we succeeded at that. And so I think if you're going to listen to a couple tracks, check it out and sample it and see if you agree.
Small intimate gig or festival?
Oh, those are tough. The first gig that I played was that the Rods played was with Blue Oyster Cult. We had played a gig at a theater with Judas Priest, but that was prior to the Rods finishing the album and with Gary on bass. So we're playing to 10,000 people or maybe 8,000 people. I can't remember what the arena holds in Binghamton, New York. And so we hit the stage, and because we were local guys, basically, a lot of the crowd knew us. So we had a thunderous reception, and I don't even remember how well I played or if I could hear. I have no clue about how we were. I just remember at the end, the crowd, the whole place went nuts. And that was the best feeling in the world, because here we've been playing shitholes where people were running out. Like, they were leaving us to our own devices. It was like we had more people at a rehearsal than we did at that club sometimes. So to go from that to being on stage at an arena where people are just loving what you do and applauding crazily, that was incredible. And then I threw my drumsticks to the crowd, wailed them out there, because I'd seen so many drummers come out at the end and wail their sticks out to the crowd. And I walked off stage, and my manager says, "Carl, don't ever throw your sticks out to the crowd again. That's a lawsuit." He had a very soft voice, way of speaking. And so he was very calm about it, but he totally shot me down. So now when I throw my sticks out, they're always underhanded and to somebody instead of wailing them overhead so I can nail somebody in the head with them. So I got what he said, but it was disappointing. That was my one and only time to toss my sticks out into the crowd from a big stage.
Oh man, Okay. Vinyl or digital?
Now that's an interesting question. In a perfect world with a killer stereo system, a tremendously high quality diamond needle and turntable, everything balanced, everything EQ'd properly, vinyl, hands down. But that's almost never the case. So for me, digital, if you're getting CD quality and or better, which now you can have, I would say I would go with digital, because after the first or second listen vinyl, it's deteriorating. So whereas with digital, you get what you get, and as long as that disc maintains its integrity, you'll get that. So I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah,
but
it's cool.
that's how I look at it.
Okay, right, next one's hot dogs or beer?
Oh, I don't drink, so I would have to say, and I've always been known as you're the club soda guy, or you're the orange juice guy.
Denim or leather?
I'm always denim. Leather I've had leather. Playing in leather is like putting on a sweatsuit and then sunbathing.
Biden, Trump, or Kermit the Frog?
Well, that's a good question. I think Biden is a nice guy. He comes to our area along with Clinton. They've had like ancestral homes here. So they come, and my friends who have Epicurean Delights, they take care of them. They cater the events, and they're a phenomenal catering company. And so, I hear stories of them just as normal people. So Biden's a really nice guy, I think, but I don't know. I don't know if he's a strong enough leader at this particular moment in history for America. Trump is a megalomaniac. He is a supercilious bastard. I also agree with some of the things he's done. However, he makes enemies. So instead of making friends and having a synergy of people supporting his ideas, he makes enemies. So when you have someone like that, it's basically buffoon time. So even though I support and like some of the things he's done, I can't agree on those things. And so another 6 years, and when he reads or does a speech, all I hear is mumble, mumble, mumble like a sixth grader. He reads like a sixth grader, and then he'll pick up something like this. Oh, we're gonna have a vaccine. It's going to be a perfect vaccine. It's going to be the best vaccine ever of all time. Ask anybody. It's the best. Those other vaccines are crap, but our vaccine, perfect. And then he goes back to mumble, mumble, mumble. So I don't know if I can take 4 more years of that. So Kermit the Frog, I am always delighted to hear Kermit the Frog. So based on that, I guess I would have to say Kermit the Frog.
Thank you so much for your time today. The album is excellent. I hope you get over to the UK once all this madness has ended. If you have any final words for your fans and our listeners.
Well, I do, because I always say that I've made so many friends, and the band has made so many friends from people just coming up to us at shows. The Rods do not have current plans to do a paid meet and greet. And so if we're at a show and you want to say hi, please do. We like meeting people. I've had some bad experiences meeting my idols, and I always cite this one, Tommy Aldrich, doing shows with Ozzy, and Tommy was a big favorite. And my friend from Cortland, where the Rods were based, was his drum tech. And I walked by and said, Tommy, you're sitting by the door, truck entrance, and with my friend Ox. And I said, Tommy, you're one of my favorite drummers. And I had seen him the night before looking at me during my drum solo from behind stage. And then he sort of darted away when I caught his eye. But I just had to tell him how great he was, how much of a fan I was. I did the fanboy thing. And so I finished just think you're great, Tommy. He just turns away and doesn't say a word to me. So I will never do that to a fan. I felt that was very rude, and my friend Ox just looked at me and shrugged his shoulders like, what can I say to you, pal? That's who he is. But I always love meeting fans, and I've made some great friends from it. So if you're at a gig, you want to say hi, I assure you I will not do anything but nice, polite, and love to talk to you. This is Carl Canedy from Canedy and the Rods, and you're listening to Metal Gods Meltdown.